to talk about today. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to be talking about and discussing all of the differences between Etsy and Shopify. Welcome, I'm Shelly of Launch Party, an e-commerce design studio and creator of Shop School. I have been doing websites for over 10 years, really closer to 15, Shopify specifically for about 5. And I work with product-based businesses to help them make more sales online. That is the central component of everything I do. That's part of what we're doing here with Launch Lab as well. And Launch Lab, which you're here at now, is my monthly free series to explore different topics for your product businesses. So I do have some past ones that are up on YouTube if you want to check those out. If this is your first one here, welcome. If you're returning back to Launch Lab, I'm excited that you're back. And let's get started with Etsy versus Shopify. So let's discuss what's the difference, which is better, which should you start with, and how to use both to maximize your revenue. And I will be keeping an eye on the chat here. Hi, Erica from Florida. And so if you have questions, comments during it, you can pop them in the chat. We also have an Ask a Question box here on Crowdcast if you're live. And that's a place that you can put your questions where I can get to at the end. We'll definitely do a big Q&A session at the end as well. So let's talk about what is the difference, because we're not comparing apples to apples here with Etsy and Shopify. So Etsy is a marketplace. That is the biggest distinction. It's a marketplace. And Shopify is an e-commerce website platform where you can build your own website. So the first two differences to know is that because Etsy is a marketplace, marketplaces provide their own traffic. Etsy puts a great deal of effort, a great deal of money into bringing people to Etsy.com to shop their marketplace. Shopify doesn't do any of that because Shopify, you are building your own website. They're not at all responsible for who comes to your website. That's on you. So that is a really, really big key difference to understand about Etsy versus Shopify. So Shopify does spend money on ads, but their ads are just for their own platform. They're for Shopify. They're not to bring people to your website. And with Etsy's ads, they are kind of there to bring people to Etsy.com, but they're not working specifically for you necessarily, although they can. And we'll get into that more with the offsite ad fee when we talk about that. But that's really important to keep in mind is one is a marketplace. Another example of a marketplace is Amazon, eBay. Etsy is similar and Shopify is not. It's you're on your own with Shopify. You're on your own, kid. So another difference is Etsy is easy to set up. It has a very low barrier to entry. You could get started with Etsy probably in an hour or so and set up your Etsy shop, be live, have a product that is available to sell relatively quickly. It's cheaper as well. And we'll talk specifically about the fees. Cheaper to set up as well. We're going to compare your fees when you make $1,000 for both, and you'll see how it actually stacks up, that you actually do make more with Shopify, but with setting it up, it's cheaper with Etsy. And then with Shopify, it does take longer to set up. There is a higher barrier to entry. There's a bigger learning curve with Shopify as well. Third difference is with Etsy, you are not the only, because it's a marketplace, you are not the only person selling products. You're not the only Etsy shop. There's lots and lots of competition on Etsy. And there can be lots of knockoffs, especially if you start doing well with a product. I know many of my clients and shop schoolers have talked about this, where if your product is doing well, then you start seeing knockoffs or very, very similar versions of your product for sale on Etsy. With Shopify, since it's your own website, the only products that are available to purchase on your own website are the ones you want to sell. So that can be your products that you make or that you source yourself. You can also sell products from different vendors, like a boutique, and you're not limited to whatever, just your own products. But the main point here is that with Shopify, you're only selling the products you want potential customers to see on your site. With Etsy, Etsy wants to make a sale. It doesn't matter if it's your shop, I should say your shop, or someone else's. When someone is on Etsy, Etsy is prioritizing that there will be a sale. They're not prioritizing your shop specifically. They just want any shop. So they'll show relevant products from other shops that might be cheaper. They'll prioritize Etsy sellers with star ratings and Etsy sellers that offer free shipping, things like that. With Shopify, you are in control of all of the features of your site. So you get to choose everything about the shopping experience. In some ways, I would say that's great, but it is also overwhelming because it is a lot of control that you have with Shopify. So it means that you do have to have some know-how and understanding of how that works and what you need to do in order for people to actually purchase on your site. We're going to talk even more specifically about the fees, but the main thing to remember is that Etsy has a 6.5 transaction fee, sometimes additional fees on top of that, and Shopify has 0 transaction fee. Instead, you pay a monthly plan fee, starting at $39 a month for Shopify's basic plan. You can get the $29 a month for the basic plan, just as an aside, if you pay yearly for your plan. And I do recommend the Shopify basic plan for almost everyone. That is the plan I would recommend starting with, is the basic plan. With Etsy, customers say the whole, I bought it on Etsy, rather than recognizing individual shops. So they may not even realize that they bought it from a specific shop or they bought a product from you. They just know they purchased from Etsy. That's a really big difference from purchasing from an individual website where you know the website that you bought it from. You know, the branding is all over, and you have the ability to build your own unique and distinct brand with Shopify. With Etsy, you aren't selling your products on different sales channels. You are selling only on Etsy. With Shopify, your online store is considered one of your sales channels, and you can have a whole slew of other sales channels. You can sell in person, you can sell point of sale, like at a brick and mortar. You can sell on Facebook, Instagram, Google, TikTok, YouTube, and more. And you can also sell on Etsy from Shopify. So you can have an Etsy sales channel that sells on Etsy. Okay, so let's talk money. So comparing Etsy versus Shopify here. The listing fee for Etsy is 20 cents. So that's where we're talking about how easy it is to get started, lower cost, spend 20 cents, get your product in front of all of the people that are on Etsy.com. The transaction fee is 6.5%. So that's a little bit steep. That did go up. I think last year it went up. The credit card processing fee is 3% plus 25 cents US dollars. It does vary by country. The credit card processing fee is just something you cannot get away from, unfortunately. Anywhere you're going to be paying a credit card processing fee. The offsite ad fee, this varies. Some shops are able to opt out, but it is 12 to 15%. And if your sale is attributed to an offsite ad, then that's when that fee will apply. And Etsy decides, they've tracked that and decided when a sale will be attributed to an offsite ad. Subscription fee for Etsy Plus, this is optional, but that's $10 a month. Etsy Pattern, again, is optional, and that's $15 a month. With Shopify, let's talk fees there. So it's either $39 a month or $29 a month if you pay yearly for that basic Shopify plan, which is the one I recommend. Transaction fee is none. The credit card processing fee is almost identical to Etsy's. It's 2.9% plus 30 cents US dollars. And then not included in your Shopify, but highly recommended, is a domain cost. The fee for owning your domain, which is your website address, your URL. For example, mine for my Shopify store is wildlybright.com. That will run you about $15 a year. That can really depend how much Some can cost more, some can cost a little bit less, but that's a good benchmark to keep in mind, about $15 a year. So let's compare if you make $1,000 in sales in a month on Etsy versus $1,000 in sales in a month on Shopify. So with Etsy, we've got the $65 Etsy transaction fee for that $1,000. Then you have $30 in credit card processing fees. And then let's say, for example, $45 in offsite ads if $300 was attributed. So the bottom line with that $1,000 is you're paying about $95 if there's 0 offsite ads to $140. So it's not a huge amount there, but it is a little bit of fees that you have to consider. And then with Shopify, let's say you've got your $1,000 a month of sales, then your subscription fee is going to be between either $29 a month or $39 a month. Your credit card processing fees will be $29. Your domain, if we've averaged that out between the month, is going to be $1.25, and you're at $59 to $69 in fees. And if you've got any questions coming up, let me know. Okay, I see someone put in, ask a question. Okay, Sharon said, can you explain the Etsy offsite ad fees? Yes, so I don't have personal experience with Etsy offsite ad fees, but I do know about it from my clients and shop schoolers. If you have personal experience that you want to chime in with in the chat, please do. But what it is it's something that you can opt out of when you make over $10,000 a year in Etsy. So automatically users for Etsy are enrolled in this program. And what it is that Etsy will be doing ads for you for your business on any of those ad channels, Facebook, Google, YouTube, etc. Kind of the regular standard ads that you would do online ads with. Then if someone has clicked on that ad, gone to your site, gone to your Etsy shop and purchased that product from that, then Etsy will say, okay, you got that sale from our offsite ad. So we're charging you, I believe it was 15% if you make less than $10,000 a year, 12% if you make more than $10,000 a year. So we're charging you a certain percentage of your sale based on you got that sale from our ad. So there's lots of opinions about if this is a good program or not. I've heard different things from different people that are Etsy users, but that is your kind of general, it's basically a program that Etsy is going to do some additional marketing for you. And if it works, then you do have to pay more in fees. So I hope that explains it. Let me know if you want to explore that more. Okay, let's talk about a hot topic. I'm always asked about this. Sales tax comparison of Etsy versus Shopify. Please note the source on the bottom of this is Paper and Spark. My dear friend Janet, who owns Paper and Spark, she is always helpfully supplying this link whenever I do workshops because this always comes up. So I'm going to put this link in the chat for you as well. And okay, hold on. There we go. So that link is in the chat for you. If you're watching this, then you can see the link written here, paperandspark.com/Etsy versus Shopify handling sales tax. But it's important to know that because Etsy is a marketplace and Shopify is not, they do have different rules for how they handle sales tax. So Etsy is subject to marketplace sales tax. That means that they have a nexus in every state because they are materially involved in every state. They make enough sales in every state that they have to charge sales tax in every state. It's very easy as an Etsy seller because Etsy charges and remits for sellers. So you don't really have to think about it too much, but sales tax is being charged pretty much every US state, or it is in every US state. I don't know about internationally, but I'm sure they are charging sales tax there too, and they're handling that. Now Shopify is different. With Shopify, so Cheryl said, I love Paper and Spark, me too. Denny said, Oregon does not have a sales tax. Yay. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So then Etsy wouldn't be charging it in Oregon, I'm sure, or I would think. So with Shopify, this is how it works for most people. You have a nexus in the state that you live. So with Wildly Bright, my Shopify store, I have a nexus in Florida. I do not have a nexus in Oregon or in Minnesota. If I did, then I would need to charge sales tax there. But I only need to charge sales tax in where I have my nexus, which is Florida. So that's really actually super simple to set up in Shopify. I know it can feel daunting because it is different than Etsy, but it is still very simple. You set up, you put where you have your sales tax that you need to charge. You don't have to know, okay, in this county it's 6.5, in this county it's 5. You don't have to know any of that. Shopify does that for you based on where you have your nexus. Shopify has a relatively new product called Shopify Tax. So I put a screenshot of that right here. And it's really nice because it shows you, it creates reports for you based on your sales tax. So basically, Shopify is going to do all that hard calculating part for you. You don't have to worry about that. What you do have to do, what is your job with Shopify, is you have to file your sales tax returns to wherever you are in charge of doing that. So for me, I'm filing my sales tax returns to Florida. So they're different. Shopify's is more to consider, but it is still simple and manageable with Shopify. They make it as easy as possible. So we've done the whole comparison. Which is better, Etsy or Shopify? So I would say for brand new businesses, starting on Etsy is a really easy way to validate your product. That is my favorite thing about Etsy. If you have a new product idea, if you have something you want to sell or a new business idea, you can get your product up on Etsy in a day and see what's going to happen. Because there are a lot of eyeballs on Etsy, because of the marketplace traffic, it's a great way to test and see what's going to happen with your product. And then for businesses that are ready to take on brand ownership, Shopify is definitely the best way to do that. So you can be at different points. You might be ready to take on brand ownership right away. With your business idea, you can start on Shopify, or you can still build your Etsy store first and then start on Shopify. You can build your Shopify store, then do Etsy. There's no right or wrong way, but I do think it's simpler and faster to get up on Etsy. And then you can start your Shopify store immediately if you want, or you can wait a couple months, see how it goes. But when you want that brand ownership that we've really talked about, then that's where you want to be on Shopify. There's not a threshold or a timeline, like a sales threshold or a timeline that you would be on Etsy that you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next step. It's really about that if you want to have that brand ownership. And a really important thing that I'm going to discuss more is if you're doing marketing for your business, that's when I think you really need to be on Shopify and have your own website as well, if you're already on Etsy, to really take advantage of and utilize that marketing effort and put it towards your own store. And I'll talk about that. So what can you do? And this is what I call the Etsy and Shopify Maximizer Plan, how to combine both for the best of both worlds. So use Etsy to quickly set up a shop to see if your products will sell. In other words, validate your products. Take advantage of the marketplace traffic by getting your products in front of lots of people. So this is a stat from an Etsy shop. They actually tell you how many visitors are coming to your store from Etsy. Etsy brought 87% of visits in this example. So that's why I strongly believe you do not need to be sending traffic to Etsy. You want to just be taking advantage of the traffic that is on Etsy, optimizing your Etsy shop as much as you can to get that traffic from Etsy itself. And they do a good job of providing traffic. They get a ton of people at Etsy. And then you want to use Shopify to build a long-lasting brand and customer relationships, and to sell your products on lots of different channels like your website, Facebook, Instagram, TalkTalk. I'm sorry, I'm seeing some typos on my slides. For those of you that hate typos, I'm sorry. I do too, but it happened. So, TalkTalk, the app the kids are on, and YouTube, Google, and more. I encourage you to direct your marketing efforts to your own store, to Shopify. If you're putting in the work, put it towards your Shopify store. Etsy already has built-in traffic. So work on sending traffic to your site where you won't pay as much fees and you have more control. Tenny said, wait, what? You're human? Unfortunately. Or am I? Am I just a great AI that's happening right now? We love all sales. Yes, I love Etsy. I love any sale. But what's better than an Etsy sale? I'd say a Shopify sale. Less fees and more brand ownership. So here is the Maximizer plan, 4 steps in this process to leverage both platforms. Number 1 is to implement a set it and forget it strategy on your Etsy shop. Now, if you don't yet have an Etsy shop, and if you're in the boat of you came to this workshop because you're like, I don't know if I should start on Etsy or if I should start on Shopify, I do think it's great to get started on Etsy, just quickly get it up and running, and then start on your Shopify. But it's totally okay as well if you do want to do your Shopify store first. So you can really put this step number 1 anywhere that makes sense for you. If you are just really ready to get started on your Shopify store and your own store right away, that's also good. 2, build your Shopify MVP, minimum viable product. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that is exactly after we talk about this plan. But in short, it is just the fastest way that you can build your Shopify site so that it is still workable, but you're not putting in a ton of time. So your quick but still professional looking Shopify site so you can launch ASAP and make sales. It's a really big deal to me that you do not spend months and months and months or years and years and years, as I have seen, working on your Shopify store, especially if you don't have an Etsy store yet, Etsy shop yet, because what I really want is for you to get your site up and live and that you can start making sales. And then you can start, well, this brings us to step number 3. Then you can start building out or expanding your marketing strategy by leaning into what excites you. Send your traffic to your new Shopify store. So there are so many things. This is kind of, again, a for better or for worse, because you have all this control of your Shopify store. So many things that you can do to make your Shopify store better, to bring more people to it with marketing, and also to do more with the conversion rate and to optimize and to add new features and to add a blog and to add other apps. There's so many different opportunities that you can do on your Shopify store. And that is something I want you to do after your store is live. And that's why I love this Shopify MVP plan, so that you have your site live and then you can later work on it after, because a lot of people get stuck on doing this before they've launched their site is the main point there. Step number 4 is to optimize and improve your Shopify store as you make sales and learn more about your customers. So it's so much better to do that after you've launched your store, is to put that time into your site and kind of figure out what's happening, what can I do to improve, what feedback am I getting from my customers, etc. See you next time in the Launch Lab. Thanks, everyone.